I found that if God is calling you to something, He's going to make it happen. My name's Steve Botsford. I've honestly grown up in a Christian home my whole life, and I thank God for that regularly. And it wasn't until about 16 years old, though, that I finally took hold of my own faith. And part of that is a journey coming, being raised in the church, and then my dad started working at the church and just kind of being well known in the church. There's that, he was a worship pastor, so I wasn't really a PK necessarily, but it was a WPK. And so there comes a high standard with that as what I felt, and an expectation from a lot of people. And I just found that I was living up to people's expectation a lot, and found that's not what Christ wanted for me, and living up to another standard. And that's about 16 years old is when I found that out and decided I wanted to live to His standard only, and be working to please Him and not working to please people. And honestly, for me, that's just been very, very freeing. Still something I tend to struggle with now and then, but I know that I have freedom in Him. So yeah, honestly, it's been I'd say within the past couple years, the story that I'm thinking is really just calling me into a place where I'm more dependent on Him. So right now I'm in the ministry. I've been doing youth ministry for about full time, I think 10 years, and I've been loving it. But it's been a place where I've just felt comfortable and familiar with what to do and what to expect. And honestly, I never saw myself doing ministry past that, just because I loved youth ministry, but felt God calling me to do something else. And honestly, it's the thing where I've told students so many times, don't get comfortable in your faith. Don't get comfortable in your faith. And here I was being comfortable in my faith and what God was calling me to do in the work that He's called me. And then all of a sudden there was a call to not necessarily step out of youth ministry, but step into more adult ministry. And that terrified me. I wasn't sure what that was going to look like for me. So right now I do small groups as well, and as a part of that, it's teaching adults, teaching on sermons on Sunday, which is something that I absolutely never wanted to do, mainly because I don't know if I'm an extreme introvert, but I'm quite the introvert. And for God to call me into ministry is just kind of like, are we sure about this? Are we sure? And I got over it with speaking in front of students, but then it was like, oh, now adults, people my age and older. Okay, yeah, that's quite a bit. So it brought me out of my comfort zone for sure.
And when did you first realize that Jesus was asking you to step into this next maybe level of faith and lay this struggle down at His feet? Or maybe that He was calling you to something deeper in your faith with Him and relationship with Him?
Yeah, I would say that was about maybe 2.5 years ago, where I just started feeling like, okay, should I be doing more? What else? I mean, because all throughout Scripture you see them being people being stretched to do something else. Like, hey, I've never done this before. Are we sure? I mean, the thing that just comes to my mind is Elisha, after his boss Elijah is taken up, and now all of a sudden he's left with it, and he's like, okay, God, but if I do this, it's got to be all you. It's got to be give me a double portion of His Spirit, And that's kind of what I was feeling like. I don't know how this is going to look, but I feel like God is calling me to stretch myself in some way. And then it was about 7 or 8 months after that, I think, that this opportunity to move within the church came up. So.
And what challenges or struggles have you run into as you walked through this experience and as He's guided you through this process?
I mean, for me, it was fear. I mean, the whole public speaking thing. I did go to Bible college, but I put off intro to preaching as long as I could, to the point where it was a smaller college and they offered it every other year, to the point when my senior year happened, that wasn't a year that they were offering intro to preaching. So I had to stay an extra year just for that class because it was like, I don't want to take that now. I don't want to take that now. And so I got the 5-year bachelor degree. I've never asked to be on stage. I never wanted to be on stage. When I had been asked, it's like, no, I'm good. And just left it at that. Like, just never had that desire because honestly, I think it's fear. Like, I just don't know how I would do in that situation. So, along with this movement in teaching adults and pastoring adults, it's been this like, all right, I don't have that authority that you have with students where it's just like, no, come on, man, I'm right, get over it. It's like, man, what if they push back? What if they say something that like just like really gets at me? What if I'm not all that I think I am? So as honest as students can be, the honesty of adults was a little more terrifying.
And what happened as you walked in obedience to that call? What did you maybe find out about yourself, and what did God reveal about himself through this process?
I found that he is faithful. I mean, the as along the lines of preaching, like from the main stage, it was, I mean, moments before I was headed up there on my own. It was during worship, and I forget the song. It seems like I should remember the song, but I don't remember which one it was. But it was about fear, and fear not like not being something that I have to surrender to, but something that I can lay before God. And I was just like, shoot, I'm about to get up and preach to a room full of people, and I'm letting this fear of something that I believe that God has called me to. I'm letting this fear like overpower me. And so that moment, I'm like, God, this is if you've called me to this, then I'm just gonna put this fear at your feet. I'm giving it to you right now, and it's up to you whether this works out or not, whether it goes well according to whatever I think, or hopefully goes well to what He's planned. So, and honestly, what I found is that He is faithful. Like, here's the great thing: I lived past that. Like, I didn't go up there and just crumble to pieces and die. I think God was honored in it. The gospel was preached, and so what I found through walking in obedience is that He is faithful.
Did or has saying yes to this journey or this invitation cost you anything?
I mean, yeah, it's put me out there in front of more people, and the more you are leading more people, the more criticism you're open to or vulnerable to, I'd say. And some of it's, I mean, some of it can be helpful. I don't think anyone has ever been like nasty to me or anything for this, but I mean, it puts you out there, and as hundreds of eyes are just looking at you and just like, all right, what next? What next? And it's just like, okay, God, what next? Like, come on, give me what I need or what these people need. And yeah, so there's the vulnerability in that for sure. It's definitely like put my comfort, like it's killed it essentially, and just over and over, and not just in preaching in front of people, but also in leading people. And there again, there's the fear, like what if people don't follow? What if I'm trying to lead and no one's following? And but yeah, again, God has proven faithful in that.
What have you learned through this process?
I found that if God is calling you to something, He's gonna make it happen. Like that's, and it's the simplest answer that I can think of. But if you truly believe that God is calling you to do something in ministry or life, and you're trying to make it happen on your own, that's the most likely time that you're going to fail. But if you're relying on Him, saying, okay, God, you called me to this, I'm putting my trust in you, I'm putting everything in your hands to make this happen, and I'll do my part, whatever that may be. Like, I'll sit down and do the work, but I'm trusting it's you that's going to make this a success. I think that's a really big part of it.
How is your life different after answering this call and invitation and walking in obedience to King Jesus in this area?
I mean, I still have worry, still have fear of what if I fail, but I know I can walk in victory with it. It's like, okay, I'm trusting that God is going to do it. I feel like I'm juggling so many things right now. It's like, how can all of these things possibly like fall into place? It's like, well, it's by the hand of God. Like I will do my best to not let things fall, but my trust is going to be in Him, and I'm gonna do my best to be obedient to what He has called. And so it's really changed my perspective on that, and like what does obedience to Him actually look like as I pastor, as I lead, as I do all these things. So
Steve, who is Jesus to you?
he is my Savior. He is my King. He says jump, I say how high, and can you help me out, type of thing. He's he's everything. So the way he's the one that I look to, and how I lead, how I pastor, how I parent my own kids, and it's he's got to be the source of everything. So
Thanks for sharing your story.
yeah, thank you.